The storm rolled violently across the Arizona Valley, lightning tearing open the sky with white fire. Daniel, soaked to the bone, rode along the riverbank, scanning the flood-swollen water for movement. The wind howled through cottonwoods, carrying sand, leaves, and the unmistakable cry of someone struggling against the current. Instinct overtook fear. He dismounted without hesitation, boots sinking into mud as he sprinted toward the rushing water. The figure appeared for only a moment, a girl, barely conscious, fighting for air as the river dragged her like a rag doll. Daniel lunged waist-deep into the icy surge, bracing himself against the pull. His hands reached her just as her head dipped under, fingers locking around her wrist with desperate strength. The water slammed against them both, but he planted his feet, muscles burning as he hauled her toward the bank. Every second stretched endlessly as he fought the river's fury inch by inch. When he finally lifted her onto the muddy shore, she lay still except for shallow, trembling breaths. Rain fell in cold sheets as he brushed wet hair from her face and froze. Her features were unmistakable, high cheekbones, ceremonial beads woven into her braids, clothing marked with sacred symbols. She was Apache. And not just any Apache. Her eyelids fluttered open, revealing dark, feverish eyes that widened when she saw him. He knew her face from whispered stories carried through the territory. Naya, daughter of the chief, fierce as wildfire and precious as rain in drought. Her ankle was twisted sharply, the bone swelling beneath torn leather. Daniel lifted her carefully, feeling her flinch yet cling to his jacket as the rain soaked them both. Thunder rumbled like drums of warning across the canyon walls while he carried her toward higher ground, each step heavy but unwavering. He spoke gently, telling her she would be safe now. They reached an abandoned line shack perched on a rise above the river. Wind hissed through broken boards as Daniel laid her near the hearth. He tore strips of cloth from his own shirt to wrap her ankle, then kindled a fire, shielding the flames from the draft. Warmth slowly filled the room, flickering across her face. Naya watched him in silence, wary, exhausted, yet alert. He offered her water, holding the cup steady as she drank in small, weak sips. She whispered something in Apache he couldn't understand, but the gratitude in her eyes was unmistakable. She was alive because of him, and they both knew it. Outside, the storm raged until the first hint of dawn. Daniel kept watch through the cracked window, aware that her people might be searching. He wasn't afraid of them, only worried that they might misunderstand why she was here with him. Before sunrise, he stepped outside to check the river's level. That's when he heard them, hooves, many, slow, deliberate, surrounding the shack like a tightening circle. Daniel raised his hands calmly as Apache warriors dismounted, their expressions stony and unreadable. Spears and rifles gleamed in the early light. One warrior pushed open the shack door, finding Naya inside. Awake but unable to stand, murmurs rippled through the group. Recognition, shock, fear, reverence. Then the riders parted, and a man stepped forward, the chief himself. Tall, stern, wrapped in a storm-blue blanket marked with symbols of authority. His gaze swept over Daniel with an unreadable mixture of suspicion and gratitude. He knelt beside his daughter, touching her face gently. Naya spoke to him softly, her voice fragile but steady. The chief listened, nodding slowly before rising to his full stature. At last he turned to Daniel, his expression carved from stone and pride. The warriors fell silent as he approached, each step deliberate, carrying the weight of generations and sacred tradition. You pulled her from death, the chief said, voice deep as thunder. You carried her. You sheltered her. You touched the daughter of our bloodline. His eyes narrowed, not in anger, but in the gravity of law older than the valley itself. A life saved is a bond forged. And by our law, the wind fell still. She now belongs to you. Daniel felt the words hit like a blow, heavy and impossible. Belongs? He looked at Naya, who met his eyes with a mixture of fear and resignation. She hadn't chosen this. Neither had he, but the warriors nodded solemnly, accepting it as truth woven into their traditions. Daniel swallowed hard, shaking his head gently, not in disrespect, but in refusal to claim ownership of a life. Yet the chief raised his hand, signaling silence. This is our way. What is done cannot be undone. The warriors bowed their heads as though witnessing a sacred binding. Naya's breath trembled. Daniel's heart pounded. The chief's voice softened, edged with emotion rarely seen. You have saved what is most precious to me. For that, the spirits bind your paths. He placed a hand on Daniel's shoulder, firm and unyielding. From this day, fate has joined you. Honor it. Daniel glanced once more at the girl he had saved, the chief's daughter, strong even in pain, her eyes shining with something he couldn't yet name. The storm had taken many things from both of them, but it had brought them into the same story, bound by danger, tradition, and something deeper than either understood. In that fragile dawn light, one truth became clear: nothing in their lives would ever be the same again. The warriors formed a silent circle around Daniel and Naya, the morning sun slowly rising behind them, casting long shadows across the sand. The storm had passed, but its weight still lingered in the air. Naya stood between her father and the man who had saved her, her breath unsteady, her heart divided. Daniel kept his hands lowered, palms open, showing he meant no harm. He wanted no claim, no ownership, no bond that wasn't her choice. But the Apache law was older than any of them, etched into stories, songs, and sacred rites. He could feel its power in the stillness. The chief's gaze remained fixed on his daughter, searching her expression, weighing truth against tradition. Naya met his eyes with a strength she didn't feel, her injured ankle trembling under her weight. She knew the law. She knew the consequences of resisting it. And yet she stepped forward anyway. It is not belonging, she said softly, her voice cutting through the silence like a blade of light. It is a bond. Her people shifted uncomfortably, their whispers fluttering like restless birds caught between old ways and new understanding. Daniel exhaled slowly, shaken by her courage. He shook his head. You owe me nothing, Daniel said quietly, refusing to take even a step toward her. Your life is yours. Not mine. Not anyone's. His voice cracked with sincerity, a sound the warriors recognized: respect, restraint, and a rare humility not found in many who crossed their lands. Naya's eyes softened. She limped closer, closing the distance with painful determination. You risked your life to save mine, she whispered, every word trembling with truth. Let me choose what the law cannot. Her hand hovered near his, not touching, waiting, asking permission in silence. The chief's jaw tightened. His daughter's defiance was gentle but unbreakable. He had raised her to be strong, to speak truth, to honor her spirit. Now she was doing exactly that, even if it contradicted the traditions he carried like armor. His chest rose and fell slowly as he weighed her words. Daniel stood frozen, torn between stepping back and stepping toward her. The warriors watched, breath held, waiting for a choice that felt larger than any of them. The desert sun rose higher, bathing the valley in gold as if the land itself wanted light to witness what would come next. Naya reached out, placing her hand lightly on his arm. A simple touch. Soft, trembling, yet filled with a strength forged from survival and choice. Daniel felt his breath catch, not in fear but in recognition. This was not a bond forced by law. It was something deeper. The chief stepped forward, the air shifting with his movement. His eyes held centuries of tradition, yet a flicker of pride glimmered beneath the sternness. Our law binds those whose lives are tied, he said, but a bond chosen freely is stronger than any law written by our ancestors. Naya swallowed, her fingers curling slightly against Daniel's sleeve. Then let this be my choice, she said. Her voice carried across the valley, steady, resolute, echoing off the canyon walls like a vow whispered by the earth itself. Not a sentence, not a burden, a path I take because my heart wills it. The warriors exchanged glances, surprise, respect, and something like relief. The chief bowed his head slightly, acknowledging her courage. Then your choice is honored, he said, voice heavy with emotion he seldom showed. A bond chosen is a bond blessed. Asterisk, Daniel felt tears sting behind his eyes, though he blinked them back. He turned toward Naya fully now, seeing her not as fate's decree, but as a woman standing in her own power, brave, wounded, but unafraid. If this is your choice, he murmured, I'll walk whatever path you choose beside you. Asterisk, she smiled faintly, exhaustion mixing with peace. Her hand found his not as possession, but as a bridge. Fingers intertwined slowly, delicately, sealing something fragile and profound. The morning sun warmed their joined hands as if approving the union not forged by storms or laws, but by hearts choosing one another. Asterisk, the chief touched Daniel's shoulder, the gesture solemn yet accepting. You saved her when the spirits tested her strength, he said. Now she saves us all by reminding us that tradition must bend when courage demands it. The other warriors bowed their heads in agreement, honoring both past and future. Asterisk, the valley grew quiet as the warriors prepared to return to their camp. Naya remained by Daniel's side, resting against him when her ankle ached. He steadied her with gentle care, never claiming, never controlling, only supporting, as she had chosen when the Apache riders vanished beyond the ridge. Daniel lifted Naya carefully onto his horse, making sure her injured leg rested securely. She leaned back against him, her head resting near his shoulder. Safe not by law, not by obligation, but by trust. As they rode across the open desert, the wind carrying the scent of wet earth after the storm, Naya closed her eyes and breathed deeply. For the first time since the river had pulled her under, she felt control return to her life, not stolen, not assigned, but reclaimed. The sun painted the land in gold as they approached Daniel's ranch. The world felt new, quiet, open, filled with endless possibility. Naya squeezed his hand lightly, whispering, "Thank you. For letting me choose?" Daniel tightened his arm around her waist. "Thank you," he answered softly, "for choosing me." In that single moment, two souls, wounded, tested, and bound not by tradition but by courage, two destinies intertwined. The storm had brought them together. Choice had united them. And the rising sun lit the path they would walk side by side, forever, not by law, but by love freely chosen.